All right, guys, well, since we didn't get to the basics of photosynthesis benchmark, we're going to go over it with this kiosk online. I'm going to screencast the benchmark and then put it up on the YouTube site. So, starting with photosynthesis, the first thing that I want to do is I want to clear up a misconception that a lot of you guys have. A lot of you guys have been told in the past that photosynthesis is the same thing as the way that plants or photosynthetic organisms are going to make energy. We need to clarify this because the way that they make energy is not photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is how a plant or algae or perhaps phytoplankton, how they're going to make their food. So if you look at our definition, it says it's using sunlight to make organic compounds. Those organic compounds are that food that we're talking about. And that food specifically is glucose. Remember, glucose is a carbohydrate. So photosynthesis is how a plant is going to use sunlight in order to make its own food. So, why do you care? Well, basically the important thing for you guys to keep in mind is the fact that the food chain starts on land with photosynthesis. Photosynthetic organisms use the sunlight to make food, and we then consume those organisms to continue the food chain and to get our energy, our food source. Other important thing is the idea that photosynthesis, one of the waste products, is the oxygen that we use. They take in carbon dioxide that we give off, and they give off oxygen, which we use. It's a really nice little circle that we've got going on, a cycle where we give off carbon dioxide, they take it in, they give off oxygen, we take it in. Carbon dioxide is also a really huge greenhouse gas contributor, which is a large reason for global warming, something for us to think about. And if you guys wanted, you can click on the link on the kiosk. So, plants don't eat. We're all aware of that. No mouths. They don't have the ability to engulf or to use endocytosis to get their food in. So they need to have some other method of getting their food. That particular method is obviously going to be photosynthesis. Interesting thing is only 1% of the sun's actual energy is photosynthesized. That leaves 99% bouncing around unused. Imagine what could be possible if that other 99% of the sun's energy were harnessed, whether it was by additional plant life, whether it was by solar energies. Only 1% is actually used. Other important thing to know is that a lot of you guys have a misunderstanding that trees are the big contributor to being able to produce oxygen, to photosynthesis. The really important thing for you to know is that it's not trees, it's not even plants on land. It's actually the algae. The majority of the earth is ocean, and algae is found everywhere in the ocean. That algae is actually responsible for contributing to the majority of the oxygen and photosynthesis on Earth. Last thing to know is where it takes place. We should know that it's in a chloroplast, that specialized cell structure, that organelle in a plant cell or in algae. Algae is not actually a plant. It's found in the chloroplast. That's where photosynthesis is going to take place. And in some of our prokaryotes, some of our bacteria are photosynthetic. That takes place in their cell membrane, so it's a little different for them. So our exceptions to photosynthesis: carnivorous plants, always what you guys think of. Venus flytrap, a pitcher plant. All right, there are plants out there that don't use photosynthesis as their sole method of getting the nutrients that they require. All right, we do have carnivorous plants. They prey on other living things. You can click on the link and watch a nice little video that kind of gives you more information. Picture there, that is a Venus flytrap. It is zoomed in. Venus flytraps are not huge. It takes a very long time for them to grow. And this one over here is a pitcher plant. What's actually going to happen with a pitcher plant is that water fills up in the pitcher portion of the plant, and insects tend to climb down in, and what they don't know is that the same thing for a pitcher plant as what happens on the surface of a Venus flytrap is that that substance that looks like liquid, looks like water, smells really sweet, it attracts them, they think they're getting something good. It's actually a digestive enzyme liquid. It's like stomach acid, but not quite as powerful. And what happens is that the bug, the insect that climbs in, winds up getting stuck, winds up being trapped, and just slowly starts to digest, starts to break down from those enzymes in the liquid. So, basic chemical reaction for photosynthesis is that you are putting in oxygen, you're putting in carbon dioxide. Sunlight is that energy that we need to boost the reaction, and what you're going to get out is oxygen and glucose. Now, notice the balancing of a chemical reaction. If you paid attention, all right, you have 12 hydrogens here, the 6 gets transferred over here. You've got 6 oxygens in that case. You have 6 carbons, and here you've got 12 oxygens. So overall, notice that that's 18 oxygens. In this case, on the other side, which are our products, right, reactants versus products, our products, we have 12 oxygens, right, because we multiply those two numbers. We've got 6 carbons, we've got 12 hydrogens, and we've got 6 oxygens. Combine the oxygens again, we've got 18 oxygens, and if we take a look, we can actually figure out that what we have is 6 carbons, 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, 12 hydrogens, 18 oxygens, 18 oxygens. Law of conservation of matter. Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. Even in a chemical reaction, it's just transferred and changed into different molecules. So, we should know reactants are what's going to be what we start with. They're going to react. Products are what we're going to end with. And the sunlight is that thing called the activation energy. It's what's going to trigger the chemical reaction, really get it going. So what makes this all possible are the chloroplasts, those specialized structures. And if you look at the structure of a chloroplast, you have some specific names, some specific things that are located in the chloroplast. You have a thylakoid, all right? That's called a thylakoid. One little disc. A stack of all of these discs is called a granum. And then you've got all the space in between, which is called the stroma. All right, you do have membranes that kind of encapsulate this. I talk about the thylakoids as being kind of like Mentos. All right, that's what they tend to resemble in appearance. It kind of helps everybody think of it. So you got a whole stack of the Mentos inside of the chloroplast. So when we talk about what those particular parts are for, the stroma, that space, is going to be one of the locations where reactions occur. You're going to learn about which particular reactions it is in a little while and later benchmarks. This is where starches are created. Starches. There's definitely a better word to use than starches because we're talking about a particular type of carbohydrate that gets made in photosynthesis, and that particular carb is glucose. And then when the plant needs to store the glucose, it builds it into starches. So when you eat the plant, you eat their starch. You eat their stored food. It's pretty messed up, guys, eating their food.